Welcome to Microchip's briefing. The content of the briefing includes the Great Nanometer Chip Race, ASML and Samsung Inc. chip deal as Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visits. New York plans a $10 billion chip research center with IBM, Micron and others. US doubts performance, yield of Huawei's advanced chip. Xi visits Vietnam as China seeks to counter US influence. The Great Nanometer Chip Race. Nikkei Asia. The slowing of Moore's law, which states that the number of transistors on a chip doubles every year, is creating opportunities for China to catch up with industry leaders in the chip race. The technological gap between Intel and China's Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, SMIC, is narrower than ever before, with Intel's lead now only 3 years ahead of SMIC, compared to the previous 4 or 5 years. The slowing pace of innovation by industry leaders has allowed laggard companies like SMIC to close the gap. Furthermore, the rise of chip packaging as an alternative way to boost performance is giving China a chance to narrow the gap with global leaders. Chip packaging, which was once viewed as less technologically demanding, is now recognized as a battleground for chipmakers. Companies like Intel and TSMC have pledged over $20 billion for multi-year investments in chip packaging, and the market for advanced chip packaging is expected to grow significantly in the coming years. China has been investing heavily in its chip industry and is leveraging the opportunity in chip packaging to catch up with industry leaders. Despite challenges posed by US sanctions and limited access to advanced equipment, Chinese chipmakers like SMIC and Huawei are making progress in chip packaging and aiming to achieve 5 nanometers and even 3 nanometers chip production. ASML and Samsung Inc. chip deal as Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visits. Japan Times. ASML and Samsung have signed a deal to build a semiconductor research plant in South Korea. The deal is worth around €700 million and was signed during South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the Netherlands. Yoon is aiming to forge a chip alliance between the two countries, both of which are global leaders in the semiconductor industry. ASML is a Dutch tech giant that manufactures machines used to produce semiconductor chips. New York plans a $10 billion chip research center with IBM, Micron and others. CNN. New York State is to invest $1 billion in a high-NA extreme ultraviolet (EUV) lithography research and development center, alongside IBM, Micron and Applied Materials. The center, to be built at the Albany Nanotech Complex, will create at least 700 new jobs and could generate an estimated $9 billion in private spending. It will be overseen by New York Creates, a nonprofit set up to develop New York State as a semiconductor research and manufacturing hub. The investment is part of a federal bid to boost U.S. chip manufacturing and production. U.S. doubts performance, yield of Huawei's advanced chip. Bloomberg. The U.S. Commerce Department doubts that Huawei can produce advanced chips for its new smartphone at a scale or performance level that meets market demand, according to a senior official. The official stated that the semiconductor chip inside the phone is of poorer performance than previous versions, and that the export controls on advanced technology are slowing China's technological acquisition. The Biden administration has imposed restrictions on shipments of advanced semiconductor chips and equipment to China, but Huawei and its chip-making partner debuted a 7-nanometer chip in August. The Bureau of Industry and Security is currently probing the chip. Xi visits Vietnam as China seeks to counter U.S. influence. Deutsche Welle. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Vietnam and signed 37 deals on diplomatic relations, railways, and telecommunications projects. However, 8 deals tied to critical and rare materials were left unsigned. The visit comes as China and the U.S. compete for influence in the region, with the U.S. recently upgrading relations with Vietnam to a comprehensive strategic partnership. China and Vietnam agreed to build a community with a shared future but debated the true meaning of the phrase. Vietnam has deep trade ties with China but has sided with the U.S. in its assessment of Beijing's behavior in the region, particularly in the South China Sea. YouTube, wildly popular with teens, gets a pass for kids' safety hearing. Washington Post. YouTube, which is popular among children and teenagers, has been left out of a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on child safety. The committee's decision not to invite YouTube executives to testify has been called baffling by Stanford Law School assistant professor Evelyn Douek. A survey by the Pew Research Center found that YouTube is the most widely used digital platform among U.S. teenagers aged 13 to 17, with 93% saying they had used the app. By contrast, platforms including Snapchat and Instagram trailed behind YouTube in usage rates, with 60% and 59% of teenagers saying they had used them, respectively. Epic Games has won an antitrust lawsuit against Google in which a jury found that the tech giant had broken competition laws in the way it ran its app store. The decision is expected to open up other big tech companies to challenges. The lawsuit was brought by Epic Games after it marketed its Fortnite game on Android but avoided the Google Play billing system. Google argued that it was in competition with Apple in the app space and that it was legitimate to take revenue cuts from app purchases made through Google Play. The U.S. Commerce Department has awarded the first grant from the Biden administration's $52 billion fund aimed at boosting domestic semiconductor manufacturing to BAE Systems, a British defense contractor. The grant will be used to upgrade BAE's factory in Nashua, New Hampshire, which makes chips for U.S. military equipment. The decision appears to indicate that the Commerce Department is seeking to address concerns that the Chips for America program is protectionist. First grant to expand chips production in U.S. goes to British company. Washington Post. The U.S. Commerce Department has awarded British defense firm BAE Systems a $35 million grant to expand its New Hampshire semiconductor factory. The grant is the first to be awarded under President Biden's Chips for America program, which aims to create jobs and reduce reliance on chips made in East Asia. The choice of a foreign firm has been seen as an attempt to address accusations of protectionism in the program. The New Hampshire facility makes chips for U.S. military equipment, including the F-35 stealth fighter jet. BAE Systems' U.S. unit plans to use the grant to upgrade the factory in order to quadruple its chip production. NVIDIA stock rises after U.S. Commerce Secretary's comments. Yahoo! NVIDIA shares have risen following comments from U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo expressing concerns about China's access to NVIDIA's A1 accelerators. The rise in the stock price comes as NVIDIA is seen as a market leader and several other stocks have reached record highs this year. Semicon Japan to kick off as country moves to revive its chip industry. Nikkei Asia. The Semicon Japan trade show, which opens this week, will highlight Japan's efforts to revive its chip industry. The country was once a major player in the global chip industry, but lost ground to emerging rivals in the 1990s. However, the government has recently made the industry a national priority and included 2 trillion Japanese yen, $13 billion, in chip-related subsidies in the supplementary budget for the current fiscal year. Chip makers and suppliers are eyeing Japan as an alternative investment destination to China or Taiwan in light of the U.S.-China tech rivalry and concerns over a potential conflict across the Taiwan Strait. South Korea's Yoon arrives in Netherlands, will visit ASML. Reuters. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol began a 2-day visit to the Netherlands on Tuesday, marking the first state visit by a South Korean president since the country's established diplomatic ties in 1961. During his visit, Yoon will meet with Dutch King Willem-Alexander and outgoing Prime Minister Mark Rutte. He will also tour the headquarters of ASML, a major tech company that is a key supplier to South Korean computer chip makers Samsung and SK Hynix. South Korea is ASML's second-largest market by sales after Taiwan. The visit is part of a strategic partnership between South Korea and the Netherlands, which aims to coordinate between the government and private sectors and promote critical and emerging technologies, including semiconductors. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the sixth dimension, bringing you the latest updates from the world of technology and beyond. Today, we delve into the exciting world of semiconductors, where the great nanometer chip race is heating up. Moore's law, the famous principle stating that the number of transistors on a chip doubles every year, has been slowing down. This slowdown has created opportunities for China to catch up with industry leaders such as Intel. The technological gap between Intel and China's SMIC is now narrower than ever, with Intel's lead reduced to just 3 years. Chip packaging has emerged as a new battleground for chipmakers, and China is leveraging this opportunity to close the gap with global leaders. Speaking of chip packaging, ASML, a Dutch tech giant, has signed a deal with Samsung to build a semiconductor research plant in South Korea. This move is part of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's vision of creating a chip alliance between the two countries. ASML's machines are crucial in the production of semiconductor chips, and this collaboration will further strengthen South Korea's position in the industry. Meanwhile, New York State plans to invest $1 billion in a chip research center in collaboration with IBM, Micron, and Applied Materials. This center, to be built at the Albany Nanotech Complex, aims to boost U.S. chip manufacturing and production. It is expected to create jobs and generate significant private spending, positioning New York as a semiconductor research and manufacturing hub. On the other side of the spectrum, the U.S. Commerce Department has expressed doubts about Huawei's ability to produce advanced chips for its new smartphones. The export controls on advanced technology have hindered China's technological acquisition, and the US continues to impose restrictions on shipments of semiconductor chips and equipment. Nevertheless, Huawei and its chip-making partner have made progress, debuting a 7-nanometer chip in August. In the realm of geopolitics, Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Vietnam, signing multiple deals on various projects. However, 8 deals related to critical and rare materials were left unsigned. This visit comes as China and the US compete for influence in the region, particularly in the South China Sea. Vietnam, while having deep trade ties with China, has aligned itself with the US in assessing Beijing's behavior in the region. Shifting gears, YouTube, the wildly popular platform among children and teenagers, has been left out of a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on child safety. This decision has raised eyebrows, considering that YouTube is the most widely used digital platform among US teenagers. But fear not, the committee has its reasons, which we are yet to fully understand. In the world of legal battles, Epic Games has emerged victorious in an antitrust lawsuit against Google. The jury found that Google had broken competition laws in the way it ran its App Store, potentially opening the door for challenges against other big tech companies. This decision is a significant development in the ongoing discussions about competition and market dominance in the tech industry. Speaking of the US, the Commerce Department has awarded the first grant from the Biden administration's $52 billion fund aimed at boosting domestic semiconductor manufacturing to a British defense contractor, BAE Systems. This grant will be used to upgrade BAE's factory in New Hampshire, which produces chips for US military equipment. This move has raised eyebrows, as it seems to counter accusations of protectionism in the Chips for America program. And finally, Semicon Japan, a prestigious trade show, is set to kick off, showcasing Japan's efforts to revive its chip industry. The country, once a major player in the global chip market, is making a comeback with chip-related subsidies and a renewed focus on critical and emerging technologies. Japan's revival comes at a time of heightened US-China tech rivalry and concerns over the Taiwan Strait. That's all for today's news roundup. The chip race is in full swing, and the competition is fiercer than ever. As always, I invite you, my dear viewers, to share your thoughts and questions. What are your thoughts on the slowing of Moore's Law and China's catching up? How do you see the future of chip packaging? And what do you make of the ongoing US-China tech rivalry? Let's dive into the discussion and explore the fascinating world of semiconductors together. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.